Hi, my name is Neil Robertson, and I am a senior page strategist here at Inflow. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a new tool we have recently released we call the Seasonal Analysis Tool. This tool is designed to help you understand those shifts and trends that occur throughout the year, whether seasonal based, such as back to school, or weather shifts that can cause changes to your consumers' behavior, or even a better plan for upcoming holidays. This data can help you anticipate adjustments you need to make to your campaigns down to the product level. To get started, you need access to two things: Google Merchant Center and Google Analytics. As we go through this video, we'll explain exactly what you need to pull from those two sources and how to use it alongside this seasonal analysis tool. Also, I want to remind you, if you need step-by-step instructions to what I'm going to go through in this video, on the very first tab of the seasonal analysis tool are those instructions that'll help you understand exactly where to find the data that you need to pull, how to source it, and how to insert it into this tool to get the data that you need. So let's get started, and let's first start with Google Merchant Center. When you go into Google Merchant Center, select Products, and then select Feeds, and then select the current active feed that you're utilizing alongside your Google Shopping campaigns. When you choose that right feed, select the three little dotted tab here and Download File. When you download that file, you're going to get a copy of your current existing feed. When you pull that data, we're really just actually looking for two things: your product SKUs and your product categories. Now, for the product SKUs, this is usually, depending on how you structure and organize your campaigns, the ID that you might be using. You might be using custom IDs though, so you might also want to find the product SKUs that are hopefully also in your feed, because this is going to be a common denominator between the data in your feed and in your campaigns, as well as in Google Analytics. From a category standpoint, we also recommend utilizing the Google product category. This is usually because your campaigns, your shopping campaigns in Google Ads are structured by this. But you also might be utilizing other category structures too, like custom labels. If you're using custom labels in your campaigns, it might be best to use that instead of the Google product category here. For this example, we are going to use the Google product category, and it's usually structured in this way. Obviously, this is an example here. But as you usually have a root Google product category in the Google product category taxonomy, you usually get it down to a more specific product from that root category. So usually you'll have multiple here. You know, it could be outdoor patio furniture, down to outdoor chairs, down to outdoor patio bar seating. That's kind of probably a bad example, but when you pull your data, you'll probably see this similar structure here. Once you have all that, we just again need those two things, and you can set those things aside until we insert them into the seasonal analysis tool. The next step is to pull data from Google Analytics. What we're looking for here is go to conversions, eCommerce, and then product performance. When you're at product performance, then select product SKU from the primary dimension, and then add a secondary dimension for the month of the year. There's a couple things to note here as well when you're pulling this data. First off, we do recommend utilizing all users. The reason why we recommend utilizing all users instead of just say paid traffic is that this is going to give you a better understanding and a broader understanding of what's occurring across the site, not just what's occurring against the paid campaigns. The paid campaigns can be affected by a lot of things like budget, product availability for advertising, a lot of different variables that are going to be less impacted across the entire site. So by looking at all traffic, it's going to give you a little bit better insight across trends that are occurring. Another thing too is I do recommend looking back more than a year. My magic number is kind of in the 2 to 3 year range at a minimum. And again, that's just to get more data to understand trends that are occurring across multiple years. Again, if it's just 1 year, there's a lot of things that can have an effect on 1 year. For example, what we're seeing currently with COVID that's causing elevated interest and search volume in the e-commerce space. But it'll still give you nice indications if you look at over the course of the last few years to help normalize a lot of those seasonal trends that are occurring throughout the year. Something else to also look for is sampling. Depending on how much data is being sent through Google Analytics often samples that data. To get a better and more accurate understanding, you might need to pull multiple reports. We're lucky in this case that it is based on 100% of sessions, and that's what we're looking for here. But if you do see this sampled and say it says 60% of sessions, you might want to break this out year by year and pull 3 different reports, one for each of the last 3 years. And again, this is just going to help you with accuracy against the trends that we're looking for based on the product revenue and sales transactions. So once we have that data, and once you have it set up here in Google Analytics, it's as simple as just exporting it as either an CSV or Excel file. When you pull that data and download it, you're going to get a lot of information here, but we're really just looking for these 3 things alongside your SKUs: month of year, product revenue, and unique purchases. These are the data touch points that we're going to insert into the tool itself. So now that we have all of our data, we can start compiling it into the seasonal analysis tool. So in the first tab, it's the data feed entry. This is the information that we pulled from Google Merchant Center. So we're just going to copy and paste that into the seasonal analysis tool. Once you have that information here, if you go to C3, just copy and paste this down. Now, the reason why we've set this up is because it's designed to give you that final category. Again, Google product categories are based on the taxonomy and will often feature multiple categories to get to the root category itself. So this is a nice, easy way to get to that final category. And most likely, if you're utilizing Google product categories in your shopping campaigns, this is how it's structured. And this is the category that you're going to be utilizing when you need to make those adjustments in Google Ads. Again, though, you might be utilizing a different category source. You might be utilizing, say, custom labels if you're utilizing that in your Google Shopping. You can still insert them and copy and paste them here, and you will still get your final category here as well. The next data that we're looking to pull from is the Google Analytics data. And if we go back to our tabs here and we have all of our month of year, product revenue, and unique purchase data, we do the same thing, copy and paste it into the seasonal analysis tool. As there is a lot of data, this can take some time to process. And now that we have that ready to go, we can copy and paste down the following data points. Again, since this is pulling a lot of data, be mindful as it's calculating those formulas and it's processing the information. Now that that data has processed on the Google Analytics data tab, we're ready to pull our data here. So what you have here are the categories that you inserted from the data feed entry, and that's also been pulled alongside your Google Analytics data. First, let's copy and paste B3 down to your final category, and then over to the 12 months throughout the year. We'll come back to this and I'll explain what this data actually means. But let's also do the same thing for the seasonality review by category. So now that we have our data, this is where we can start taking action. So when we look at it from a month standpoint, this helps us understand how those categories perform in that month of the year. So as an example, in January, category 2 is the most popular category. This is having the most sales during that time period. and revenue is at its highest. Similarly, during this time period, category 3 is at its lowest during month 1. So if I'm looking in January of that year, this is telling me that Google category 2, as well as category 13, category 7, and category 10 are our primary sources. These are probably where we should put in most of our emphasis from a budget standpoint, as well as from a campaign priority standpoint, alongside our Google ad campaigns. But the nice thing about this too is that we can kind of see a shift that occurs throughout the year. For instance, Google category 3, that was at its lowest point in January, actually starts to tick up in the spring season, peaking in April of that year. And when we look at it, say, during the holiday season, months such as November and December, category 2 is still one of our most popular categories here. But actually what was really kind of popular, categories 13, 7, and 10, say during January, are actually less so during this holiday season. And so as you start moving into, say, the Christmas season, you might need to start making adjustments to category 4, for example, which is much more of a heavyweight during this season. And campaign as category 13 is also actually still popular. So these 3 categories kind of probably become your priority during that seasonal shift. You can also see certain trends that occur maybe during the back to school season, like July through September here. Here we have a lot of different categories that are high performing than, say, during what we see during that holiday planning here. The other tab is actually looking at it from a product category standpoint. So as the last tab was looking at it, how a category performs in that month throughout the year, this is actually looking at how that category performs throughout the year itself. So what you can understand here is, when does category 1, for example, really kind of peak throughout that year season? And in this case, it looks like April for category 1 is actually its busiest month. Similarly, for category 3, April is its highest season throughout the year. But when you look at, say, category 4, for example, it's actually the holiday season in months of November and December that are its busiest time for category 4. The reason why this can be helpful is, down to your product category level, this can be helpful for both you and your client to understand when are the peaks and valleys for those specific categories themselves. This can help you from a buying standpoint, and it can also obviously help you from an advertising standpoint. When for each individual category you want to emphasize your shopping campaigns or your marketing campaigns in general the most. Whereas when we look at it from a month over month standpoint, this helps us understand the categories against each other on what categories to prioritize during that given month or during upcoming seasons. So hopefully this data helps you kind of understand those different trends that are happening to your products that occur again throughout the year. And likewise, you can take this information to better plan for your Google marketing efforts or your Google shopping campaigns, as well as just even from a product availability and buying standpoint. And this information could, again, be really helpful for your clients to understand what's occurring throughout the year against these individual product categories. I hope this video helped explains how to utilize this tool, and I hope this also helps explain how you can take insights from this tool and be more actionable when it comes to seasonal trends with your Google shopping campaigns and your overall marketing efforts.